If you have ever considered the path of adoption, the path of foster parenting, and what that might look like, how do you do it? What does it all entail? And how are the emotions that go through that? Then you are going to want to stay tuned and listen to my next guest on Crushing It with Your Tribe.
As a Texas realtor, Robin McCoy is in the unique position to meet and know so many different people in a wide range of industries. These people are her tribe, and she leverages them not only to help her business, but to help theirs as well. Welcome to Crushing It with Your Tribe, where we share real talk about building business and life relationships. Here is your host, Robin McCoy.
Hey everybody, it's Robin McCoy and welcome to Crushing It with Your Tribe. And today I am with Ms. Julia Kramer, who literally, I met her probably about 8 years ago randomly, and ultimately she kind of changed my life in the direction that it was going because she introduced me to the American Businesswomen's Association. So welcome, Julia.
Thanks. Good. I'm always happy to talk to Robin.
We were just saying how neither one of us will have a problem talking.
No.
So I'm going to do your little bio here real quickly, even though this isn't anything we're going to talk about today. But I just want to get it out there so everybody knows who Julia Kramer is. Bringing over 15 years of experience in marketing, Julia has achieved triple-digit growth for multiple companies across a diverse portfolio of businesses. Her track record of delivering exceptional business impact is accomplished by understanding and clearly communicating the true value of technical and complex products. Julia was named one of the top 10 businesswomen in 2015 by the American Businesswomen's Association and is an active speaker, helping businesses learn how to create content that converts. She has mentored through the We Work Labs program, helping startups build strategic plans to reach their target audience. Julia earned a Bachelor of Arts in Journalism from the University of Oklahoma and a Master's in Business Administration from Oklahoma City University. She's also certified through Pragmatic Marketing with the PMC 6 and completed the MBA Essentials program offered by the University of Kansas. At home, Julia and her husband, Chris, never have a dull moment with 2 very active boys, 3 dogs, and a cat. And like I said, we're not going to talk about any of that today. Maybe that last
the boys.
Paragraph. We're going to talk about 2 very active boys, 3 dogs, and a cat.
That's the best part anyway.
That's the best part anyway. So really what we're going to talk about is the adoption process. And I don't mean pet adoption, I mean people adoption. She started very strongly in pet adoption.
Yes, I did. That's how we got the 3 dogs.
That's how the 3 dogs showed
and
up.
the cat.
So all of them. So tell me about your family. So you're married, you have a son, Jack, and now you have your 3-year-old Luke. So tell me kind of a little bit about that.
So I'm going to back up one. In the house, we've got the 2 boys, the 3 dogs, and the cat. I also have a soon-to-be 22-year-old stepdaughter who is,
I apologize,
already an adult.
And
for thankfully for her, is not involved in our craziness and on a daily basis anyway. But proud of her. She's out at OU. So I always joke that I have one of each. I have a stepdaughter, I have a bio son, and I have an adopted son.
That gives you all the expertise anybody needs. You can talk about any topic because you got it all. Nobody can.
And I appreciate every single way of them coming to me.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. So tell me about that. So now, you've got your stepdaughter that
So I married Chris, and we had both talked about how we like the thought of having kids, but we hadn't really settled on whether that would happen or when it would happen. And it was about a year in, and he says, I kind of want more kids. And I had thought, well, he had a kid already, so there wouldn't be pressure, right? And then I thought, well, maybe. At the time I was 36. I'm a late bloomer, as my dad would say. And I thought, well, I don't know, does this all work still? I don't know. And so, yes, it did. So we very quickly, we got pregnant, had my biological son. And, I can't pinpoint the exact time that I felt like I wanted to adopt, but it's kind of always been something, even as a kid, that I wanted to do. And maybe it's because we're some girls kind of see their lives as being around the family, which is beautiful. And I definitely have friends and family who are like that. I didn't have that vision that some people have in that way, right? So there was this big question mark on whether I'd have kids, period. And then, of course, how there's all different ways. And so when I got married, had a stepdaughter, I thought, okay, why have a stepdaughter?
I've got a kid. That's how I got mine.
That's
I
fabulous.
inherited them. I inherited them, and they're wonderful.
Sweet, and she's super easy. And I thought, well, this is amazing, right? And then we had my son, and all that changed. No, but boys and girls.
I was gonna say, because he's
quite
a boy.
the difference. But yeah, so after having my son, and Chris and I talked about, if I was not able to, if something didn't happen, that would be our next route, would be adoption. We were both open to that. Definitely Chris for sure has a heart for kids, and I didn't think I did. I was never, like I said, that girl with that vision. I would see a baby and think, oh, it's cute, but somebody asked me to hold it. No, I'm good, and then I had this baby, and all I could think about was babies. And, I fell in love with my son, and I wanted more children, but I do have a spine and hip disorder called ankylosing spondylitis. And so carrying was particularly hard for me. And when Chris and I talked about what we wanted as far as our family, we did want more kids. Both of us did. But we also kind of felt like putting my body through that, I wouldn't be the best, most active mother for the children that we had. And then, of course, I used to say, and this is only halfway jokingly, like, if I could love a human baby as much as I love my fur babies, I'd be one lucky baby. So, and I didn't give birth to them, right?
So this could all work out.
So it should be fun. And so I really felt like, just your one of the things I found in being a mom was my heart just opened bigger. And I just felt like I looked at people a little differently. And so I thought I could certainly love a baby. If you handed me a baby today, I would just be so excited to have a baby. So let's do this. So in October 2019, we decided we were going to move forward with the process of getting licensed, because it is a process. It's a process to get licensed. And then, of course, just because you've decided you wanted to add a child to your family doesn't mean that there's just one ready and right there that's going to fit perfectly. It takes time sometimes to find the kid that really fits with you. And so we thought, well, let's just see. It just so happens in retrospect that my baby was born that same month that we decided that. I didn't know that at the time.
Okay.
But having that, this hindsight now that I can share with you guys, sure, I feel like makes the way that he came to us sort of extra special to me. And that's one of the big things that I wish people would understand about adoption, is that it is just another type of pregnancy. When your baby's in your body, you have all these questions about what he or she is going to be like, and what you're going to feel and how your relationship with them is going to be. And there's just so many questions and things, but you anticipate it happily, right? And other people around you do as well. And so one thing I noticed about adoption was that although you have the anticipation of having this baby, sometimes the reactions that you get about adoption are not, as positive. So what we would hear a lot of times is, oh my gosh, you're adopting. Oh, you're so wonderful. And it kind of rubbed me the wrong way when I would hear that, because I know people I didn't, want to have a negative reaction to that, knowing people were coming from a good place.
Yeah.
But the reality of it is those babies are blessings. And if I was pregnant, no one said, oh, you're so wonderful for getting pregnant. right? No
That's
one says
interesting.
that.
That's an interesting perspective. I never would have.
It's this, you are automatically placing my baby lower than a bio baby when you say I have to be an amazing, special kind of person
to
in
take
order to take
bring
that
this
baby in.
that baby into your
And
world.
it took me a minute to like kind of analyze my negative, like how I felt about that.
They're probably, that's, I think a lot of times when people say things, that's a reflection of how they own you are wonderful because I could never do that.
And I know that, it's not like I feel, harbor ill will towards anybody who says that. It's like, I probably would have said that before having gone through this.
Yeah.
Right. But I want people to think about that because I think there is kind of a stigma on adoption, which is maybe part of the reason why it isn't, talked about as much and why it isn't used as much, why people maybe even be afraid to do it. Because that these kids, they think, oh, they're broken and they're damaged and they're, I couldn't handle the drama. And so I should probably back up to say we were going to foster to adopt. There are other routes, right? There you can, as we would halfway jokingly say, go buy a baby, right? There's adoption internationally, which is a much more complicated process and looks wildly different. But all of those other routes cost a lot more money. And so that's one downside. But also we did really want to, we know there's a lot of children here locally that need homes. And then, so why not help?
And you started out thinking foster to adopt, right?
Yeah.
Well, foster children.
We started out straight adoption.
Oh, you did? Oh, okay. Okay.
And so but going through the classes, so that as they have you go through the classes, so in March of 2020, we started going through them. And so the paperwork you have to fill out and stuff is it is a lot.
Okay? I can't even imagine.
And my husband, we walk out at first meeting, we've got these binders. I have a picture of it. I posted on social media at one point. I mean, they're just fat. And he said, and he goes, wow, pregnancy was way easier. I said, hold on. I said, wait a minute. I know. Still easier than pregnancy, buddy. And that's another kind of cool thing about adoption is that it was very much we were doing it together. So I told him this. I said, no offense, but I didn't really feel like we were in it together with pregnancy.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're doing all the hard work, right?
It's not like
all the heavy lifting, if you will.
Like you didn't help, but it's still not feeling like we're doing it together here.
Yeah.
And but adoption, it really was like, there wasn't any possible way one of us could do less than the other one.
Right.
And so we're in the process. We're like, nope, we're straight adoption. As we start listening to everything that these babies have to go through, and I say babies because they're all babies to me, regardless of age, but and we thought, oh my gosh, I'm thinking to myself, I don't want anyone getting my baby first, because the kids that are up for straight adoption have been placed prior to that. Okay. They all are in a placement. So you're never getting them right out of their trauma. You're getting them after of the fact, right? And I thought, I want to be the one who's there. I don't want anyone else responsible for my baby, right? But I wasn't sure how Chris would feel because, we were really pretty set on adoption. And this particular class, we come out of it, we pulled into the gas station. We were both quiet. We didn't say anything walking in the car. We didn't say anything in the gas station. And he pulls up, he stops, and he didn't immediately get out of the door. And I said, I hope you don't hate me for this, but I feel like we should consider fostering to adopt and not just straight adoption. And he said, yeah, I think we're going to have to. And I just started crying because I was I was like, I can't.
Wow.
I'm so glad that you want to do it because if it wants to, I want to, and he's like, okay, can I get gas now?
He goes, this is my segue to get the gas. I'm out of here.
But, there was just it was very much like that when we decided that, also like the age range, we both, kind of came to the decision, separate, but together, that we wanted to keep the birth order. And part of that's what you learn in training. We wanted to keep the birth order. So we wanted Cassie and Jack to be, in the elder siblings, which meant we needed to adopt a sibling that was younger than Jack. We went ahead and licensed 0 to 12 because we didn't want to be in a position to have to say no if there was a sibling group, and we got licensed for 2. We were trying to better understand the process and trying to leave ourselves open for,
options, anything that could happen.
Like we don't know what's going to happen. So we wanted to be open to what was going to come our way. And, I'm glad we did for more than one reason, but there are all these little decisions, these micro decisions, as well as those major ones, where I just got to know Mr. Hubbs better, And it was bonding for us in a way that pregnancy wasn't.
Interesting.
Like I said, we were doing it together. Everything was together. And that first, I hope Chris wouldn't care that I'm sharing all these little tiny personal moments, but when we got called finally which because of COVID, it was lengthened. So it was like a year later that we got our license and got our first placement. And that first night they called and said, will you accept, such and such age of child? That's all you know, is they give you the gender and the age of the child. And we said, of course. And they bring them to you that night. You don't know. You got 0 to 12 on here.
And I was there. What you're getting.
There is no preparing.
Let's just say that this is also the time that you decided to go look for a house. We're just going to throw that out there. And I'm going to make a point. If you are looking to either adopt a child or buy a house, try not to do it on the same day. That's really,
everything seemed to be moving so slow. Adoption, we thought, well, let's do this. And then as soon as we decided, I think we'd gone to like one weekend of showings and then open houses. And then it was like, boom, you have a second kid to contend with.
Oh, that was funny. I'm just like, only you, Julia.
And by the way, Robin, now we've got 2 kids running around these open houses. But yeah,
that was funny.
That first night I got off the phone and Chris, come here for a minute. And I went over there and he just held my hand and we just sat there for a minute. And we were just like, it's happening,
Yeah.
Like it's happening. And our first placement was not, it was all learning experience, and it wasn't a textbook in the way that they had told us it would be. But
imagine that, really.
Yeah, I know, but
that it's not as textbook as the foster care system,
right?
I believe.
And that's and so I'm not going to go into a bunch of detail about that, but they called us and told us that he was going to be moving on to family, and when we take this 18-month-old little boy, and we said, oh sure, because he's moving, Chris and I were like, sure. I mean, we're gonna have to have 3 boys instead of just 2 for a few days, but it was supposed to be like 3 or 4 days. And so we accepted him. We get this little toddler who we ended up adopting. And we had to get ready for him. And there was, all sorts of fun with that, dealing with the other 2 boys and then this toddler. And then the day that they were supposed to come pick up placement 1 comes and goes, and nobody called us. Nobody came by. We're like, wait,
we still have this extra child.
Did we forget about this other kid? And we called. Oh yeah. So about that, that fell through. He's not going to that family member. Wait, what? well, you're licensed for 2 kids. So it's, wait, what?
It's fine.
But we were dealing with 2 different counties and 2 different cases. So it's a slightly different situation than sibling visits because you have, so in hindsight, no, I'm glad we said yes. It all happened that way because we wouldn't have had our youngest for good. But yeah, so definitely like lots of surprises all the while. On the home end, as Robin knows, there's the house going off the market, on the market. That one falls through, we go back.
Yeah, in the height of the chaotic real
Yes.
estate market in McKinney, Texas, as it was.
Yes.
Right. I mean, it was, if there was a peak of insanity, it was at that time.
And we were right there on top.
Yeah, you were just like a little cherry on top. It was. But I have to say, you came through it like a trooper. I mean, what else were you going to do, right? You sold your house finally. You had to do, you got these kids. You've got,
we're like half packed in the house, but having to deal with the kids running around. And I really do like order in my life. And some might even say a bit of control freak. And it was definitely a lesson in learning to let go. Right?
See, well, you are about to have, now I can't remember, how old is Jack?
He is 6. He's 6.
Yeah. So he's 6. Then you've got this one, this 18-month-old. Now he's 3. And you got to learn how to let some things go when you got 2 young boys. That's all I'm going to, that's what I hear anyway. I have none of that.
Well, you would be correct. I'm still pretty uptight for some, but more relaxed for others.
Yeah.
Just depends.
Well, so when did you actually adopt him?
So
placement 2.
Yeah, I know. So honestly, as crazy of a situation as it was, we were, oh my goodness, were we so blessed to get him onto and his parental rights, because he was a part of a sibling group that was already or is a part of a sibling group. I mean, we still talk to them, but he had been taken as it was a part of a whole bigger thing. So his parental rights had already been terminated.
Okay.
And so they still had to go through the process of trying to find kin for him. He was surrendered by the paternal aunt who found herself in a very serious health situation and couldn't physically take care of him anymore. They came to us the Monday before his birthday of 2021 and said, he's yours if you want him. And of course we said yes. I mean, we were all just, I don't know what I would have done. I knew that first night he was my baby. I just felt it. Like, I felt like I found him, and she died 3 days later. So she
Are you serious? I did not know that.
She had a terminal illness and passed away 3 days after finding out that he had found his forever family. So,
oh man, you just got me all.
I know
a little bit.
It was, so it was, and there's a whole lot. I don't even know how much I should share sometimes on, because they, know who's listening, but
yeah.
There was an HIV scare, and they called and said he might need to be tested for that. And this was the right after they'd asked us if we would be willing to adopt him, and they said, would I need, and this is the caseworker, what I would need to know is, would that change your decision if he does test positive? Would that change your decision on whether to continue with adoption? And I said, I think at this point you'd have to pry this baby out of my cold dead hands. He's not going anywhere.
You're a little attached.
Him.
A little attached.
Too bad,
you said
so
he was
sad.
mine. You said he was mine.
And then when I got the phone with her, I said, "Oops, I didn't ask Chris what he felt like." And I ran back upstairs. I said, "I'm sorry, I just made a decision for us, and I didn't really think about it." But that was my initial reaction. I was like, "You're not taking him." And then I told Chris, and he said, "Oh no, that would never be an option. Sending him back would never be an option."
Yeah.
So of course that's who I married. I should have known, but but yeah, it was, it was not all fun. It was very much like, woo. But oh, this child, I just love this child so much. Him and Jack, have really, bonded, about the year and a half. In fact, just last week, I was telling them the story of, in the evening, sometimes we talk about let's talk about the stories of how you came to be in this family. And I give Jack's birth story, and I talked to Luke about how he came into the family, and the first night that we got him and how I felt. And Jack was crying, and I said, are you okay? What, are you crying? He said, yeah, I'm just so happy we got to keep Luke.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, baby. And he was just, had tears, so
that's so awesome.
And of course,
he's a good big brother.
Luke wants to be, whatever Jack's doing, whatever Jack says, that's what he wants to do.
Yeah.
Typical
brothers.
Brother style. And of course they fight over, toys or who's going to sit where or whatever, but it's all,
that's pretty normal.
Right. And it's almost like nice to listen to, because you're like, this is life, right?
Yeah. Like, this is what it's supposed to be.
So it's really a beautiful thing. And I you're not settling if you adopt. I just want to make sure people know.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. So let's kind of get into that, because before we started the show, we were talking about how there are misinterpretations or just a skewed way of looking at adoption. And I think, if I recall, you told me that November is Adoption Awareness Month.
Be the leader you know you can be. Build your professional network and access education that takes you where you want to go. We are women of all ages and backgrounds. You deserve national recognition and opportunities to build relationships with people you want to work and grow with. Hit the ground running with the Charisma chapter of the American Business Women's Association. Meetings each month from 6 to 8:30 p.m. on the fourth Tuesday in Farmers Branch, Texas, and online. Come with us. Experience ABWA for yourself. Go to charisma.abwa.org to learn more.
If I recall, you told me that November is Adoption Awareness Month.
Yeah.
Kind of so let's make some
Saturday
awareness.
before Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Is National Adoption Day.
Okay.
And so, like, here in Collin County, which is where we adopted out of, they shut down the court. I mean, it's not open on a Saturday anyway, but the courthouse is completely emptied, and all the judges and the lawyers and the clerks come in and donate their time, and every single courtroom has adoptions going.
Oh my God.
And they make it so fantastic. Collin County just does such a great job. It's the only one I've done, but I can tell you they had a family picture set up to get your first family photo.
That's so amazing.
Then the courtrooms, which are normally pretty stark, right? And beige. And they have them, it looks like a stuffed animal just threw up stuffed animals. Like it was, I mean, there are stuffed animals everywhere. There's toys. They have donuts out, little sweet treats everywhere.
It's a party.
It's a party. Yeah. And every kid who comes in gets to walk out with a stuffed animal. And they give you a little care package, and they help walk you through it. So it's just this fun celebration. You get to see all these families, and it's their attempt at bringing awareness, of course, to this process, and how awesome it can be for people. And I know it's not for everybody. I also don't want to make people feel guilty that they're not taking in a kid, because you do have to, really think through this. It's a big decision, but I would say if there's like any tiny inkling that, you don't need to have everything people think. I don't know what people think they need in order to be a parent, but all you need is be able to love this kid.
Yeah, love the child.
You just need to be able to love the kid. I am certainly not the perfect mom. I yell sometimes, right? I really try not to, but I do yell.
But you're a human being, and they are boys,
and they're
3 and 6, and I mean,
and
let's be
for
real.
the love of God, did you have to put your sticky hands on my suit right as I'm walking out the door?
Yeah.
But stuff like that. But you just have to love them. They just want to be loved, and they just want to be safe.
And they just need somebody to love them and to live in a safe space. Now, you had also said, you said a minute ago that I don't want anybody to think they're settling when they adopt a child. What did you mean by that?
I feel like a lot of people have this vision of, having a baby, and they're really stuck on, it must be a bio baby in order for me to be able to love it. And I'm not trying to like judging IVF or anything like that, any other means
Sure.
of having a child. It's a very special experience. I wish that everybody who wanted that could have that. So that is not, a judgment, but if those avenues do not work for you, I do understand it's the death of a dream, but it doesn't mean that there's not just as good of a dream out there. Might be a reason, right? There might be a reason why your child is out there and not in your body,
Right. Well, and you said too that, you started this process in October of 2019, which is when Luke was born.
There is such a connection that I had with him before he was born. I just would have these moments where I would just feel like, oh my gosh, my baby's out there. I would pray for him. And so I consider myself a Christian, and I would pray, Lord, just keep his heart and his body and his mind safe until he gets to me. Because, there's a reason why he's being taken, but just limit the damage kind of thing. And there's other things throughout, like these little milestones that have happened, and the way that he came to us, that just, he was listening. And there were these certain times, and God really listened to me through all of that, and did get him to me safe. There's, he did have a foster family before his aunt, and they took very great care of him and got him through some tough times.
Yeah.
And so I'm very grateful for them. And that's the other thing is like our motivation originally was, to change foster to adopt, but we had not done foster to adopt. We wouldn't have gotten him because he had to be in foster first.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just all these little things as they happen, and you look at it in hindsight, I'm like, oh my goodness. And then when I got him that first night, I was like, oh my gosh, my baby, I mean, he just was so relaxed with us.
Yeah.
That first night, of course, the first thing I did was feed him. I got feed those babies, feed those boys. And so he just sat on my lap. And if you know how active he is, it's like, that was crazy in and of itself, because he was in the car for an 8-hour drive to get to us that day. That's an eternity. And so the fact that he didn't want to he wanted to sit on anybody's lap to do anything was a minor miracle. And he was just so happy, to be with us, and we just had an immediate connection.
So what would you say to people that you said, even if you have this inkling, right? What would you say they should do? I mean, just follow the inkling and
follow the inkling
and take it where it takes you.
Yeah, I would go to one of the first step classes, which is like where you learn about the process more in depth. They give you statistical information, and don't think they're trying to sell these kids, under false pretenses. They certainly do kind of try and scare you straight, if you will.
Okay. Well, they tell you
the real
where these kids have been through,
right?
And what because like you said, there's a reason they're not with their parents.
Right.
And so there's had to have been some sort of trauma in some way, shape, or form. It doesn't necessarily mean their parents are incarcerated or died, or maybe they are, or, it can be a variety of reasons why. And I think that's important.
That's one of the things they talk you through and prepare you for. And because of that, there's all different ways of going about it. I mean, you can, they definitely give you tools and information around, kind of what you're up against and what the different levels are. So each child, as they come into care, are assessed for their need level, so that they can better match you with a child that is going to be, you're going to be able to meet their needs. Right.
Right.
So
Right.
we were just basic. We were, I'm just a basic girl. So we were, so we just got licensed for basic level care. But there are several levels above that, depending on what you feel like you're ready for. So you don't have to be doing, crazy therapy work with a kid in order to
Right.
be a kid. It's not always like that. But these kids, a lot of the times what they're being assessed with are things that, like, my son has asthma. I mean, right? Like if they have any kind of
Yeah,
anything,
sure.
they're going to be marked as having a need. ADHD, right? Pretty common. There's all these like pretty, what you would consider kind of normal standard diagnoses that you're going to see. And as a parent, you don't know what your child, when you give birth, you don't know.
No, you have no idea if they're going to have asthma or not.
And that's kind of how we looked at it too. Is like, we're going to have to deal with whatever, regardless of whether it's our bio son or our adopted son. But a lot of these organizations will put on, regardless of whether you choose their agency, they put on something to kind of explain to you the process. Go to one of those classes. And so I know in McKinney, which is where I am, Embrace Texas is big on getting the word out about all of this. You can talk to people who've adopted or are fostering to kind of get multiple perspectives.
Yeah.
And then I would say there's opportunities to volunteer and service. Like, even if you don't feel like, oh, I can't take a kid, that's fine. You can still support kids. There's a lot of, you can even sign up just to do respite care. A lot of these families. So for us, for instance, you can't just hand off these kids to whoever. They have to, which, I mean, I would hope with your kid, you wouldn't hand them off just anybody. But the state has to know them. It's not right.
Yes.
The state has to know them. So
it's not like we need to take the.
Yeah. Hey, can you take my 3 boys?
Yeah.
And so you can sign up to be a respite caregiver, which requires like a background check, basically,
right?
Like fingerprinting and background check, so that if anything happens, they can find you. And then, that might be a way that you kind of feel like, oh, could I handle this?
Sure.
And it's also helping a family. Like when we had the 3 boys and we're trying to do all of this stuff with moving, and it would have been, we had my mom, so she was your
respite,
yeah, and Chris's parents, but it still not everybody does that, right? So it's really helpful for people who don't. And then I would say just if you go through the process, you're going to start feeling it. You're going to feel it. If it's meant to be, it's just going to, I would imagine, it's just going to be stronger.
Or you're going to hit the wall that says, you know what, this isn't right.
Not, yeah.
I've gone as far as I can, and I just don't see myself on the other end of it.
Right.
Right. So do you know, maybe even just in Collin County, how many kids right now are in foster care or in need of
I don't
permanent
know in
homes?
Collin County, but I do know in Texas there are over 5,000 kids who don't have a place.
How many?
5,000 at any given time, because they're finding place, and they've changed the laws recently around. So you have a lot of caseworkers who have to end up spending the night in hotels with these kids.
Oh my
So
goodness.
it's hard on them, and it's hard on kids because they don't have homes to put them in. So
it's heartbreaking.
And you can foster. The other good thing about fostering to adopt is that you can foster to adopt, and because you can go in with it, I'm just going to foster. And then you don't ever have to adopt if you decide that's not, because the other thing is, I think when it's, at least we did from our experience, you're going to know when this kid fits your family. And it's not that you won't love the other kids. Like, we loved our first placement. We just knew it wasn't it. And I didn't even know what a good fit felt like till I got Luke. Right. But,
Right.
but that's kind of it, is like, when
Right.
when we had the first placement, it was like, we're just still filling out this process. We're just seeing how everything goes. And so, it'll just click for you.
Yeah. Well, I think that's an important point too, is that you don't have to adopt every child that comes through the door, but what you're doing is giving that child, for that period of time, warm, hot food, a bed to sleep in, where they can just feel safe. I mean, I think that is probably one of the biggest traumas that these kids have, is just not feeling like they're in a safe place.
A lot of them, like, neglect is the bigger deal too. I mean, not that there isn't abuse, but neglect is pretty high up there. And, just being left alone, not being, fed. There's definitely a lack of, and it's not, just for the record, kids don't get taken just because their parents don't have money, by the way. They get taken.
Yes.
And one of the things
course.
the judge kind of here in Collin County talked about, she's like, I don't care if there's 4 kids and they all share a bedroom, and the mom, sleeps on the couch. Like, those kids probably have fantastic memories of giggling right before sleep, and they're in a warm place and the mom's taking care. I don't care that they don't, they're in a crappy little 1-bedroom apartment. Totally fine. She's like, what I do care about is the mom who went to Disney World with her boyfriend and left her 5 and 3-year-old home with a package of hot dogs and macaroni and cheese that wasn't cooked. That's what I care about. Like, and she said, and she can be in the nicest house on the block, it does nothing to do with poverty. Right? So it's the attention,
and the care, just attention that they're and
lacking. Care. And because of that, a lot, often food as well.
Yeah. So, wow, that's a good story.
Yeah.
That's a good story.
I'm glad you gave me a chance to talk about it, because I'll talk to anybody about it.
Well, I think, just watching you, right? I've known Julia for 8 or 9 years now. And when it came time for her family to find a new house, that's what we were doing. Yep. And she said, oh, and by the way, we just got licensed for foster to adopt, but don't worry about it, because this is going to take forever.
Right.
And then so Robin, we've got but I was watching you from, when the first,
you were one of the first people to meet our first placement.
Yes. Yeah. And it was funny and amusing and a little overwhelming.
Yeah.
And all the things.
He had a meltdown coming out of one of the open houses I had to carry him out of. Yep, that was, like, but he would also just, with the kid that is,
he'd also just grab my hand to walk across the street.
Yep.
And so it's things like that. And having watched this whole thing kind of evolve over the last couple of years has just been really cool. And I'm glad that you wanted to share it, not only with me, but with other people. And I'm going to put an email address for Julia in the show notes, so that if you want to ask any questions, she has already told me that she's happy to answer anything. I'm not going to give you a phone number, because I don't want a million people calling her, but I'm going to give you an email address where you can reach out to Julia and, just ask whatever questions. Obviously she is,
happy to
an
talk
expert
about
in
it.
her world. She's an expert in her experience.
Yeah. I wish I could show you how cute he is too, but there's too many creepers out there that probably
there's a lot of creepers, unfortunately, but he is real cute. Take my word for it.
Just know he's real cute. Not that
she's got really cute kids, and she's got all, this family is just it's made to order. Right? Yeah. So any final thoughts? Are there any, you're a smart cookie. Did you read like books and things like that? Was there anything in particular that might
definitely
be a good
Definitely.
for them.
There's, I literally have a list of parenting books. I've gone through a lot. There's a parenting course, that I took. I'll get that name to you
Yeah.
to put in
Just,
there.
if it occurs to
Just
you,
some nice
send it over.
redirecting tools.
Yeah.
There's if you happen to find yourself with boys, there's a book called Calmer, Easier, Happier Boys. And it is got some great tools in it, and it really explains the difference in their brains, which is helpful, as a mom, because I'm a girl,
Sure.
obviously. So that was like
what are these boys
that
doing?
definitely, I was like, insight into just like how they work. That was helpful. And then, prepare yourself for the harder times, reading up. I mean, I would say, scare yourself, read some of the fetal alcohol syndrome material out there, to prepare for the worst. It's, I promise, probably not as bad as what it sounds like, but but still, always better to be prepared. So definitely read up, but they do a lot of training as well.
I bet they do. I mean, that's good. That's good to know that they do.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, thank you so much, Julia. I appreciate your time. And if you guys have any questions about this process, like I said, reach out to me and I can hook you up with Julia. We'll put that email address in the show notes as well. You're listening to Crushing It with Your Tribe, and I hope everybody has a great day.
Thanks for joining us for Crushing It with Your Tribe with Texas Realtor Robin McCoy. Check out all the show notes for contact information on Robin and her guests, and to access your free resources and information discussed on this episode. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a conversation. Thanks again, and we will see you next time on Crushing It with Your Tribe with Robin McCoy.